Yo, Kip Bass Guy here. Hey, this is going to be a difficult review for me. And it's on the OSD Audio Trevoce 15 subwoofer. And I've listened to it for a while, and I bought it because it has 3 stars out of 5 on Amazon, and overall doesn't have the best reviews, and I wanted to know why. Because I'm good friends with the people at OSD Audio, and I have a lot of their gear in my home theater. I've reviewed a lot of their subwoofers outside of this. I've reviewed their amplifiers. I've reviewed some of their speakers they have, and I've always had good things to say. So I was curious as to why this subwoofer does not have a good review. It's been through a lot of ups and downs, it seems like. So I'm going to get right into the review and show some measurements of it, but I do want to tell you guys exactly what this is first. So this is a passive subwoofer, meaning it has 1 active driver and then 2 passive radiators. So the active driver is the big 15 in the front. The passive radiators are the 2 15s on the side, and they act as ports so that you get that low bass extension without the port noise that comes from having ports, and maybe a little bit cleaner of a response, a little bit cleaner of a sound. That's the whole point of that. And you get big bass in a relatively small box. I love the size of this subwoofer. It's not a huge sub by any means, but definitely not small. And I love the drivers, being able to see all 3. You do have a grill on the front that you can put on. It's actually sitting right here. You have a cover that you can put on the front to hide the front driver, but the other 2 will always remain exposed. But I like the way it looks with and without the cover on them. It looks like it has some authority, so it's a nice piece if you're going to leave it in front. It has faux leather on the top, and it's a nice little touch with rounded corners. It's a good looking sub, I will say that. So on their website, I'm on there right now, they call this the OSD Trevoce 15 EQ with 1600 watts of probably peak power, I would say, down to 15 hertz. And I'm going to go ahead and get right into the review based off of what I just read. So 1600 watts, I will definitely vouch that this thing has a lot of power and it puts out a lot of output. There is no doubt about it that this will fill a small to medium space and even borderline medium to large space with no issues. It gets louder than I wanted it to in this room. So that's pretty impressive out of this relatively compact box. Now, it says native EQ on there. This sub used to come with an app where you could control parameters. You can control EQ, you can control your phase, you can do all sorts of stuff to the sub from your listening position. They took that away not too long ago, and it made a lot of people mad because this sub comes at $700, and a lot of times it's less. Its MSRP is just over $1,000, but I've seen this as low as $499. I've seen it as high as it is now at $700, $800, $500. It seems to fluctuate a lot, especially on Amazon. But having that native app inside made it a bang for your buck because there's not a lot of subs out there that are giving you an app that you can control the sub with at that price point, other than maybe SVS and a few others. But they took it away from you. It was once a feature and now it's gone. And that probably made a lot of people mad who had the app. And it made a lot of people mad who wanted to buy the sub and no longer have that capability. I don't understand that part, right? So it says EQ in the name, in the model number of this sub. It's Trevoce 15 EQ, and there is no EQ anymore. You can't do anything other than set your crossover and set your phase. So if you want to do any kind of EQ, you have to rely on something external, which I have, but I didn't have to do that maybe a year or 2 ago. So kind of frustrating there. Now, the next part that is not good. So it says that it gets down to 15 hertz, 14 to 16 in-room response, plus or minus like negative 10 dB or whatever. So great. That's really nice. And I expect it to get that low with this many drivers of this size. It doesn't get anywhere near 15 hertz. I'm gonna tell you right now, if you thought that you're buying this sub to get subsonics, you're not getting any subsonics out of this subwoofer. It has a hard stop at probably mid 20s, 25, 26 maybe. I was playing with a frequency sweep in my room, just going between 15 hertz to 40, 15 hertz to 50, 35 to 60, 30 to 50, just playing around with different frequencies to see not only what the sub could play, but how it sounded. And it's not getting much past 25, if 25 at all. We'll get to see that. I'll put on the screen. We're going to have some measurements up on the screen. It ain't getting anywhere near 15. It's not getting anywhere near 20. So very disappointing because, again, that's stamped on the title of the sub, 15 hertz. It ain't getting there. If it does, you're not going to hear it. It sucks. I hate that. So not very proud of that at all. And I don't really like the onboard DSP. So when you start digging around the 20-25 hertz range below its actual capabilities, it just loses all composure. It just sounds so bad. Usually a good sub will limit itself so that you can't damage it. You can't, overdrive the sub at lower volumes. It'll compress. It doesn't do that or do that very well. So if you do play 20 or so hertz at a loud volume, it's going to lose its control. And I've heard a lot of comments on my unboxing video that people had to replace their subs or it broke or something like that because it was playing frequencies that it has no business playing. Yeah, that's not good because you never want to have to turn in your sub to buy a new one or fix it or get into warranty issues or whatever. Although OSD Audio has incredible customer service, you don't really want to have to use it. So that's my complaint there. So here's what it's good at. There is tons of output. I think I measured like 130 decibels in like 40, 50 hertz range. You'll see it on screen here in a minute. It gets loud, which is super impressive because this thing is not big. I'm sitting on my biggest subwoofer right now. It's dual 15 sealed. That has 3 drivers in it essentially, 1 active, 2 passive. They're 15s as well, and it's not even half the size of what I'm sitting on right now. And it gets as loud as my subs do. It really does at certain frequencies. It does. So that's super impressive. If you're looking for something that's really going to throw a lot of bass at you and keep it pretty minimalistic, that's it right there. It does that very well. Speaking of that 30, 40 hertz range and above, it's a lot. And sometimes it can sound a little bit boomy and chesty, especially in my room. I have a little bit of acoustic treatment in here and I have a rug, but it's primarily hardwood floors in here. And I do need some more acoustic treatment in here. But I have 3 subs in my room already that sound really good. So I know that it can sound good in here. And this subwoofer just does not sound all that good in here. Those notes that it's good at, it's loud, but loud doesn't mean that it sounds good. And I was listening to it in different positions of my room, my seating position, off to the left, off to the right, in the middle of the room, towards the back of the room. I even left the room just to hear what it sounded like in the house. And it's loud for sure, but it doesn't always sound good. And that's so disappointing. A lot of their subs that I've tested do sound really good. Like their 10-inch tube-based subs sounded really good. Or I've done some smaller 10-inch subs like this, but smaller, they sounded really good. I've never done the 12-inch version of this. There is a 12-inch version of this, and maybe that one sounds better. I don't know. But this one here, it didn't work in my room. I don't like it. I don't like it. Stark SW15 is a sealed single driver sub, and I think it's around the same price as this. I'm buying that over this. Anything SVS, I'm buying over this sub. Even the Klipsch RP-SW line, like the 12 or the RP-15, I'm buying that over this, which is unfortunate because I think this sub looks really good, has a lot of output, more output than the Klipsch sub does. It has more output than the equivalent, let's say, the price point, you get a PB2000 Pro maybe. It has more output than a PB2000 Pro. It doesn't sound at all as good as a PB2000 Pro, and it doesn't dig anywhere near the PB2000 Pro, and it doesn't have an app anymore like the SVS PB2000 Pro. So I'm buying an SVS over this. I'm buying Stark SW over this. I'm buying the Klipsch RP over this. I'm buying a lot of different subs over this. And even other subs from OSD I'm buying over this. So it just did not sound good in my room. I was very disappointed the moment that I plugged it in. I did not like it. I did go into my mini DSP and I reran its own calibration file. I tried all that I could. I even turned off the mini DSP and just used my Anthem AVM processor, and it sounded better, but it's too bloated. The mid range is way too accented. All of your SPL is 35 hertz and up. It rattles your teeth between 35 and like 100, but you have nothing in the 20s, and that just makes it a very loud mid-range speaker is what it's what it seems like to me. So I'm going to throw up some measurements. We're going to do 2 measurements of this sub. We're going to do, I have the mic in my listening position now. I'm just going to measure the sub in my room at my listening position, ear level, and then I'm going to do another measurement with the mic about 1 or 2 meters away from the sub itself. So we're going to take the room out of the equation. We're going to see how it measures in my room, and I think the graph will tell you exactly what I'm saying. It'll show you exactly what I'm saying based off the crazy line you're going to see. So let's take a look at that. All right, so you guys should be able to see that screen. I'm going to get the volume up just a little bit here, and I'm going to run a measurement. Again, this is in my listening position of just the SW. There is no ARC room genesis. I turned that off. It's disabled. So it's just the sub in my room, no DSP or anything applied to it. Let's run the first measurement. All right, so this is my frequency response. Let me see if I make this bigger. This is my frequency response. We did 10 hertz up to 120. Let me see if I can make it a little bit smaller and move it over. All right, so this is my graph from 10 hertz up to 120 hertz. And this line is everywhere, which is expected because there's no DSP applied, there's nothing like that. So here's 20 hertz. We're getting, it shows about 100 dBs at 20 hertz. But if you look at the rest of the line here, here's 40 hertz, here's 30 hertz, there's 50 hertz. We're getting 125 plus dBs between 35 and 55. Everything else is a flat line as far as decibels go. 60 hertz, we're under 100 decibels. 70 hertz, we're about 110. 80 hertz, we're at, looks like about 100, 102. So everything seems to be within 100 to 110 hertz, except 30 hertz to 50. And then we're almost 30 decibels louder between 30 and 50 than we are anything else. So this is what I was hearing, was a very loud upper, I wouldn't call it upper bass, because 30 hertz is still a low note. 30 to 50 is your upper bass, your upper low bass region, I guess you can call it. It's not your subsonics, but this is where all the output is, between 30 and 55, and it's loud. But when you look at your 30 on downwards, or you look at your 60 on downwards, we're barely getting, over 100 decibels. So the balance is so bad that there's a lot of work to be done to make this subwoofer sound good. And the only thing that you could do, you can't boost all that stuff to make it also 120 dBs plus. You have to cut all this down about 30 decibels to make it more in line with what you have going on with most other frequency. Again, only between 30 to 55 hertz are you getting this gobs amount of output. Everything else is just kind of it's there, but not really. And so it made for a really icky sound. Overall, our average dB is 100 decibels, is what my average is, even though I'm reaching upwards of 130 dBs on some of these frequencies. So I'm gonna move the mic now. I'm gonna grab it real quick, and I'm gonna put it right here in front of the sub, about maybe a foot, a little less than a foot away, and we'll measure it without the room and see what happens. All right, so I'm gonna get rid of the blue line because the blue is what happened in room. Here is what's happening right in front of the active driver, right in front of the sub here. So I'm gonna come back to the front of the room so you guys can see what I'm pointing at. So same problem. So here's 20 hertz. We're a little bit louder now that we're closer. We're getting a little bit above 110 decibels there. The line looks better, but that same problem is still here where all of my output, which is about 135, 130 decibels, is still between 30 hertz and 55. It's a little bit louder here, 70, 80 hertz, which is good, but all of my output is right here in the 30 to 55 hertz range, and that you hear it. I promise you, when you listen to the sub, you're gonna hear this graph, and it's not gonna sound good at all. The difference between 130 decibels and 110 decibels is loud. So you're gonna notice that it sounds one-notey, it sounds chesty, just not really good for movies. I did do movie demos, and yeah, gunshots or grenades or whatever was good, but thunder or really low rumbles, it didn't have it. All you hear was the drivers moving and flapping around, but you didn't get low bass. So it just frustrated me. And I listened to it before running the graphs, and the graphs just confirmed what I was hearing. I'm gonna put the blue line back up on the screen because the in-room response is what matters the most, because that's where you're gonna be sitting. So the blue line is my microphone in my seat. The orange line is where the microphone is now in front of the sub. And largely you have the same issue, is that all of your bass is between 30 to 55, 60 hertz. And what hurts me the most, OSD Audio, is that this could be fixed if you left your app in place. People could go in and make this better. Not a lot of people are gonna go out and buy an external DSP for their sub, especially when they're spending this much money. They're not gonna go out and spend $300 more for a DSP for just this sub. They're not going to do it. This is what you're going to get from this sub in some sort of way in your room. And you took away the app that could make this better. So I can make this better because I have a mini DSP. There's a lot of people out there, especially those in your market, that aren't gonna buy one. So this is what I got in my room. This is what I got near field. And I'm just disappointed because I really like OSD Audio. I still do. I think they make fantastic products. I think they are a true bang for your buck, but I think they missed the mark on this sub, especially after taking the app away. There are way too many other subs to buy instead of this one. So that's what I have to say about it. All right, guys, I'm gonna end this video here. I don't like giving bad reviews on things, and I usually don't because a lot of companies make really good stuff, but I will always be honest to you guys first. Because my credibility matters more than making a company happy. I, again, still love OSD Audio. I love the people there. I love their products. I still use their products in my home theater today, but I think this subwoofer here just missed the mark a little bit and could use some refining. I know that they have some other subs out there that maybe I'll test instead. I know a lot of you guys have told me they have some new lineups that I should try, and I will. But this one here, it's hard to recommend. Because there are other things in the same price point that I know for a fact that are better, that I've heard in my room before. So it is what it is. Hope you guys understand. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know if you have the sub. What is your take on it? How many stars do you give it out of 5? I'm giving it 2. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you're not already. And we'll see you in the next video. Cape by Sky out. Peace.